Hello and oh my god. There we go. Sorry, my video. Hello and welcome, you three, to Final Tribal Council for Tumblr Survivor Kuwait. First of all, congratulations on making it all the way to the end of a very long game. And for that, you guys all deserve a little bit of respect, so good job. And now on to the part that I think more people care about, getting to Final Tribal Council and then crowning a winner. So we have allotted 10 minutes for each thing to happen. You do not have to take all 10 minutes. You can take less than those 10 minutes, but you cannot take more. We will cut you off at 10 minutes. So that includes opening statements, jury questions and responses. Each juror has 10 minutes. And then closing will all be 10 minutes, not 10 minutes each. So do we have any questions before we get started? All right, jurors, we will be pinging you a little bit before it is your time to get on. But yeah, I know the finalists have decided in order that they're going to go in. So Madison, why don't you get us started with your opening statement?
Hi, everyone. I'm going to scroll back up in my doc here. I've actually written something for Final Tribal Council for the first time in my org career, so we'll see how this goes. So first of all, I just want to start off by thanking the hosts and all of my fellow players for creating such an incredible season. I've honestly had so much fun, and I can genuinely say that I love all of you, regardless of whether or not the feeling is mutual. So I've decided that for my opening statement, I'm just going to go through like the Cliff's Notes version of the game from my perspective, and then leave everything else up to jury questions. But I'm happy to elaborate on anything that I'm about to mention. But I just think that this will give kind of the best perspective of my game. So we started off the game in our tribes of 2 with our sign partners, mine being Jacob. And before any immunity challenge or anything, we were asked to vote out a set of partners blindly, which would send us into our first retrograde. And the only vote cast against me this season was cast in that first blind round. Then we get into Warzone, my home away from home for the majority of the season. I'm just going to go through kind of a quick skim of all of the Warzones that I attended, pre-merge, how I voted, and any important details. So first Warzone, I was there, I voted Brandon left. Brandon also self-voted. Second round was the puzzle competition. Puzzles and lip syncs are pretty much my only skills in orgs, so we won that and went to Oasis. That was one of the only times that I didn't go to Warzone. Third Warzone, I was there, I voted Taylor left, and then we swapped. So that tribe, that initial swap tribe was full of some of the people that ended up being my closest connections throughout the game, especially found in Matt, Kate, and Owen. So the next Warzone, Chloe and Willow were voted out. I voted Chloe, and then I voted Willow in the Willow-Adrian revote, which, while my decision didn't really make a difference at that point, it was my first flip of the season. And then retrograde happened, and Chloe came back. And then the next Warzone gets a little tricky because it's really the only round that I will totally own that I didn't know what was happening with the vote. That's the round that Renee was voted out, and people assumed that we were super close, so I was kind of kept out of the loop of that vote intentionally by pretty much everyone. Even Jacob knew and didn't tell me, which is fine. I kind of understand. We weren't particularly close, but I understand the concern. But I voted Chloe that round. And then 6th Warzone was where I knew I had the connections to make the move that needed to be made at that point, and I made the hard push to vote Nehemiah out of the game. He had made the grave mistake of creating an alliance in the Warzone, which made it significantly easier to flip the vote onto him, especially since most players knew he was a wild card and a threat. And then after that, we get into the Moon isolation vote. Our tribe had majority at that point, and after fighting back and forth for a while on our tribe as to who would be sent to Warzone, I managed to convince what I thought was everyone that sending me to isolation would be best. I knew there was a potential for an advantage there, but I also knew that I was secure enough in my position at that point in the game that I could be isolated for a round, and it likely wouldn't hurt me. However, when the votes came out, Timmy chose to vote Owen, which sent Chloe to isolation in my place. And this, in my opinion, kind of threw my position with Timmy onto the rocks. So Timmy and I have played together in multiple games before with varying degrees of success, but that kind of set the tone for the majority of Merge for us, which I'll elaborate on in a minute, at least from my perspective. 7th Warzone, Stevie was voted out over Steven, which I also take a little bit of credit for. Steven was the vote for the majority of that day, but Steven being someone I've also played with before, I knew if I worked to save him then, he'd be a number for me me for a bit moving forward. That being said, I knew he couldn't get far enough to flip on me and become dangerous, but I worked my magic then with Ian and Kate and Trace and Cullen, and we kind of made it work. 8th Tribal was when I lost Jacob. Well, I'd been to every war zone except our Oasis round. He'd been there for a lot of them as well. I knew people were going to start targeting partners, and I knew if it wasn't Jacob, it would be me. So I made it clear that I had no reservations voting him out, and I did. Jacob and I were never particularly tight allies, but I did know I was losing a number with that vote, and I needed to put myself in a more comfortable position moving forward. The following round, I tried extra hard for immunity because I knew I needed some separation for Warzone or the walls would start to close in on me, and it did pay off. Finally, a Warzone I didn't attend. Adrian was voted out that round, which didn't affect my game too much, but I was sad to see him go. Side note, apply to our Tumblr Survivor season. It's going to be dope. So next round, again, I started kind of seeing my path to the end, and I knew my pitch here at this point would be useless without some competition wins on my resume. So I try-harded the WikiLink challenge and not only avoided Warzone again, but got the lowest score out of any player left in the game at that point. Chloe was voted out that round, and while it was a loss for feminism, she wasn't a number with me, so I was pleasantly surprised. This was also the round that Steven self-voted right before Merge. That was when Merge came along and Chips returned to the game from the Lagoon. Next vote, we were at Merge, and it was starting to get real. I had some really solid alliances in Owen, Kate, Trace, Matt, and especially Corey. Between those close connections and my smaller ones outside of that, I feel really good about my strategic and social game following Merge. As I said before, I knew Steven didn't need to get much farther or he would start becoming a threat to my game, so I had no issue running with the like, oh, he self-voted last round and he's a threat, so let's vote him mentality that everyone else was willing to hop on board with. So I voted Steven that round, and Steven went home. At this point, I had the Queer Eye Alliance with Matt, Trace, and Corey, as well as the Mighty Kids Meal Alliance with Corey, Devin, Kate, Owen, and Thomas. Having that with Devin and Thomas was a key for me moving forward because I knew Devin and I assumed Thomas would probably end up on opposite sides for me and Corey, Owen, Kate sooner or later, since I wasn't particularly close with Ian. I should also clarify that I knew I could not get anywhere close to the end with Owen, Kate, and or Corey. While they're all amazing people and players, they were very obviously threats to win, and that being said, I made sure to push Kate and Owen as an even stronger duo than they probably were to other people in the game, just to solidify that they would be targeted before me. But I also was a really loyal player to them in the game. But they did get targeted despite me being really close to both of them. This was especially important after Owen picked me for his partner during that twist. I needed to make sure that like all eyes went to him and not me at that point. Anyway, me and Corey had a nice long chat to discuss whether or not we wanted to vote Trace the next round, and ultimately it was decided that it was best for all of us to have that name and thread out what we could, because I think we were all a little spooked by him at that point, and we knew that we had the numbers with Mighty Kids Meal. Then there was the disgusting mess that was the idol party. Ian played the idol on himself and Devin, redirecting the votes to Matt and Kate, but Matt played the idol to protect them, so Corey and Cullen were voted out 4-2 in the revote. That was when I flipped on Corey, who was literally my closest ally at that point, and the reason I did that, I kind of did a little jig around that night to figure out what would benefit me and my game more. And the rocky relationship that I mentioned with Timmy earlier, I kind of earned an IOU from him that night for flipping, which I knew was much needed for me. And I think I kind of got that IOU in the fact that he didn't target me moving forward, and obviously I voted him out later. So, but then retrograde happened and Cullen came back. Then we had Idol Party Part 2, where everyone had their own personal idol. I got my clue, but my connection with Owen really pulled through because he found my idol and kindly gifted it to me that round. I did lie a bit more than I'd like to admit to Thomas, who was desperate to find his idol, but I felt better with Timmy at that point than I did Thomas, so I let it happen, voted him out that round. Tribal 16 was one of 2 conscious minority votes I cast this season. I knew Kate was leaving, and further, I knew she needed to leave, but literally out of loyalty and feminism, I did not vote her. I voted Cullen that round, knowing the 2 idols would be played. Tribal 17 was the other minority vote, as I voted Chips instead of Owen, despite knowing Owen was leaving. It was literally Owen and I's votes versus everyone else, but I wouldn't change that now, even if I could. I also credit a lot to my social game at this point, because every time, no matter what, even when it was someone that people knew I was close to, I was always informed about the vote. Tribal 18, I was so proud of. I take almost all credit with the exception of whatever Matt did to save himself, of course. But that vote flipping onto Ian in that revote, I knew that Ian and Devin needed to be split up, but convincing that flip is one of my proudest moments in this game. Tribal 19, I will admit I didn't have a lot to do with, but that was my graduation day, and there wasn't a lot that I could do about being present for the game. But I got messages that the vote was flipping to Cullen, but I'd already sent in a vote for Chips, and I was at graduation events with the dead phone, so I did cast a minority vote here as well. Next is Tribal 20, and this was a really proud tribal for me. I made the social moves to make sure that Timmy was leaving that night, and it is one of my best moves in this game, in my opinion. Obviously, Devin played the legacy, but that wouldn't have made a difference. Timmy was still leaving anyway. Tribal 21 is the round that Minor stole Chips' vote and Chips went home, but I'd like to take note that the vote was unanimous anyway, and this is the one move that I take absolutely full credit for. Getting Minor to flip on Chips was not easy for me, but it was absolutely the best move for my game because I knew I had a path to the end with Matt or Devin, but Chips was still a wild card in my book, despite the iconic Duo of the Season award I expect us to receive. So then we had the horrific final immunity challenge, which, considering my physical health is that of a 90-year-old woman, I'm still pretty proud of my performance. My back, shoulders, and the arch of my foot may disagree, but that next to last tribal could not have gone better from my perspective. It was my idea to send it to fire making because at that point it truly was just like a may the best man win situation in my eyes. I voted for Matt that round. If he had gone, I would have felt really bad because we were super close throughout the entirety of the game, but I think both of them would have had kind of equal playing fields here at Final Tribal Council, so I just kind of decided that was the best route. So I don't want to take up a ton more time, but that's kind of, again, the Cliffs Notes version of my game. I will be happy to expand upon anything that I just discussed, but I hope you can see how I kind of balanced out my physical, strategic, and social game throughout the game. And I'll leave it there.
All right. Thank you, Madison. We will now be moving on to Minor's opening statement. So when you are ready, you can go for it.
Okay. Hey. Thanks. I just want to say thank you to the hosts for having a great season, a crazy one, but it was really fun. And then everyone in the cast. So my game in the beginning, since with the Warzone twist, I felt it was more important to feel like more social. So I talked to everyone in the Warzone and I tried to get good connections. So like for the first few, I was in the majority. I think the only one in the Warzone that I wasn't part in the majority was the Renee vote, and even though I was in the minority, I did know she was getting votes. I just didn't know if we had enough to keep her, but I still tried to save her during the night, even though I knew she had the possibility of going home. Um, and okay, yeah. So I made good connections, and then I think when Renee went home, the Warzone after or the one after that one, I reconnected with Matt, and he told me what like who how the votes flipped to Renee, and then I made a good connection with him, and then us three, oh, well, us two and Madison made an alliance, the M alliance, and then that was part of the pre-merge, and then towards the merge, it went away a little bit in the beginning, but that's when we were added into an alliance of Kate, Owen, Matt, um, me, and Timmy. And then so everyone agreed to take out Stefan. And then Trace, me and Timmy were close to Trace. And we had to decide if we wanted to stick with the Alliance of Five and go with them and take out Trace, or try and save Trace and work from there. But we decided to stay loyal for there. So we take out Trace, and then later on, my social game was pretty good because I got no votes during the whole season. So everyone like wanted to work with me in some way. So during the dual twist again, it helped because me and Timmy didn't get any votes. Even though there was a possibility because Timmy was seen like a threat. But Corey was like, "Oh, I don't want to vote you guys, vote Chips." And that voting Corey and Colin was hard because I was close to Corey and then somewhat with Colin. But I knew that both of them were a threat, social and then it's a physical threat with Colin. And then Colin came back, and then we then the Owen. Then there is the idols that negated. So Owen became safe, and then because we decided to flip, because I felt like Owen, if he got to the end, he was gonna win, and it was really hard to write his name down because we talked through the whole merge. Um, but if I didn't take the chance to take out Owen that round, um, he would have been in the final three. But he used an idol, and we got rid of Kate instead, who was his closest ally. In the next round, Owen went unanimously, I think. Um, and then Ian was the other person I thought it was a big threat, and it was hard to vote for him too because we were close throughout the whole game. But he was also someone who was a physical and a strategic threat and social too. So getting the chance to take him out then was good. And the same for Colin because he was a physical threat. The only other minority vote was Timmy. Uh, yeah, I tried my best to try and change it. And then for Chips, so I actually did want Chips out in the final five. Um, but I was just playing off like um, to see who would have been more of a threat, Devin or Chips. And then I ended up just thinking, oh, Chips is just the better vote because I don't have a connection with Chips, but I did have a personal one with Devin. So I knew like Devin wouldn't vote for me if I didn't win immunity in the final four, but I knew Chips would have if he had a chance. So I just stole his vote just to make sure he was leaving because I knew Matt was voting for sure. And then in the final four, I left it to go to the fire challenge because I was close to Matt and Devin, and I just had a more personal connection with Matt during the early stages of the war zone. So I wanted to keep my word with him and try to make it to the final three with him. So I gave him, so that's why I voted for Matt. I mean, for Devin. So Matt had the chance to stay because I know Madison was going to vote for Matt. And I think that's pretty much it. Thank you guys again, and just ask any questions, and I'll be honest.
All right, thank you, Minor. And with that, we have just one more finalist left. So, Matt, when you're ready, go for it.
Cool. I'm going to start off pretty much the same way everyone else started off. I just want to say this game was, I've played, this is my fourth game I've played, and this was by far my favorite. All the twists, even though I complained in the moment, looking back were like awesome. The cast was amazing, and I'm like sitting with two people who I really like, so I'm very glad about that. So I don't have like a tribal by tribal analysis of the game. But if you want to know like who I voted for each time, just look at who went home because every time I voted for someone, they went home. The theme of the game for me has been growth. I think that's evident in the accomplishments that I've had. I feel like I literally have a very good resume that includes finding an advantage as well as helping Owen find two of his, which I knew would be played for either him, me, or Kate because of our close alliance. So I felt like I sort of had three advantages. And then getting to play that idol successfully, I actually played it in advance because I had sniffed something out. So even though it seemed to be a reactionary idol, I actually knew that something was happening. And I also won an immunity challenge, which was a really big deal for me. And I won the tiebreaker, which is like the one thing I was like, if I go to, I cannot win a challenge to save my life, but I literally won a challenge to save my life, which was a really, really good feeling. And the one thing that I really did differently this time that really is the reason that I'm sitting here is make genuine relationships with just about everyone in the game. I was at odds with a couple of people. I think Ian and Devin will tell you that we sometimes had a bit of a rivalry going, but at the same time, I had like nothing but love and nothing but respect for them, and we could talk about anything from the game to our hobbies and our interests, and just establishing those genuine relationships for me was not only something that was a lot of fun, but in the process, I was able to be literally in the loop for every single vote that I was a part of. If you include the fact that I was told that Kate was going to be the revote because I didn't originally vote for Owen, but within those like 5 minutes, I was like, just tell me what's going on. And Minor was like, it's not you. And I was like, cool, it's Kate. So I did what I had to. I had to cut a really good friend, but I felt like Sierra voting on her mom because Kate literally is my mother, and I knew I was proving to a lot of people that I could be trustworthy in doing that. So I think with this game, this was something that I coined, and I'm still very proud of, was calling the votes musical chairs voting. I went to a lot of war zones. After the first 3 that I didn't go to, I was like, maybe I'll never go to a war zone. And then I went to all of them except one after that. And I think being at war zone, it was so frustrating in the moment, but really, really prepared me to have this philosophy in the game where it can change on a dime. And every single vote, you need to do whatever you can to get into a chair rather than like think about what you can do a little down the road. So when I got to the merge, I knew that I was going to be able to get into a chair. And then eventually, after I had reached a certain point where I was voting, kind of going with the flow, I was like aware of the people who I had left, knowing that I could go to the final 3 with Minor and Madison. I could go to the final 3 with Owen and Kate. So it was very cool. I realized a lot of my options were open. I made really good friends with Chips. I feel like that was something that I had a very special connection with Chips. It was evident at Final 8. People were willing to go to rocks for me, and I thought that was very cool because truly they were like, listen, I know you better than anyone else. I have a relationship with you. I don't have a relationship with the other person. And Chips was like, I absolutely will flip. And I just knew that like throughout the game, I'd been laying the groundwork that if I was ever in a situation like that, I would have allies who have sworn they would never vote for me, and who did not vote for me, even though I, at some point, had to vote for some of them. That includes Timmy, who was like, no way, you're not going home. You have to go to Rocks, who I unfortunately kind of led a charge against at Final 6, knowing that he was one of the bigger threats. That includes early in the game, Devin and I were very close, and I knew that Devin was a really big threat, especially with his connection with Ian, as well as Kate, as well as Owen, as well as Chloe, et cetera, et cetera. So I know that the downside of being really connected with people is the idea that people may have been betrayed. And I know I said that every vote I was kind of like going with the flow, but I definitely had a big picture idea, especially I would say like final 9, final 8. I knew exactly the path that I could take. And I think a lot of people will probably call me out for not wanting to get rid of Chips. But honestly, what Minor said about Devin being like, I don't think Devin's going to vote for me in the final 4. I knew that Chips wouldn't vote for me in the final 4. So even though I was kind of, Devin told me I was being kind of a woo by originally wanting to go and save Chips at final 5, I was actually doing something that I don't think people expected, which was just trying to get to the final 3 in the first place. Because I knew I could get there with Chips, even if I was risking maybe losing, because you have a better chance being at final 3 than not being at final 3 at all, obviously. So I hope everyone understands that all the decisions I made were completely calculated. I did have a personal connection, and there were certainly no votes that I was very thrilled about or very happy with, except for the fact that I knew that they were going to be exactly what needed to get me to the place that I am. I got to the final 3 with the people I knew I wanted to go to the final 3 with. I think I was, I'm the only person here who received votes, but I take that more as a sign that people knew I was worth getting out. Devin and Ian both said that on their way out that I was definitely a big threat, and they had been trying to get me out. And it was unfortunate that that I sort of won our individual like duels that we were having. And yes, I did vote correctly every single vote, which is absolutely crazy for me. I've never done that before. I've never even made it past Final 9 before. And I used to be so focused on making these big moves for the sake of making big moves and saying, oh, I did this, and trying to see if I could flip and turn the head on the game. And I started when I was like 15, and I'm talking about growth, and I just realized I reached the point where it didn't need to be something that was consistently flashy. I could play an idle and then go to kind of being under the radar. I could get Timmy out. I could go back to being under the radar. So that was something that I'm very proud of in doing that. And I'm very, very sorry that it had to be that way, but I just hope everyone can understand that everything I did was necessary, and that I still have a lot of love for everyone.
All right, thank you. We have our first juror on his way. And we have my dogs barking in the background. So, yeah, when he gets here, we will begin.
Greetings.
There he be.
Okay, so first off, I'd just like to say that I died of laughter when Madison said a loss for feminism. That was hilarious. So, but yeah, let's get started on my speech I typed up on my phone like 10 hours ago. So, first, I'm going to start off with a quote from Tyson from Survivor Blood vs. Water. You said rustle feathers. It's ruffle feathers. Russell is a name. I'll get to that shortly. But yeah, 210 days ago, 24 of us set foot on a figurative beach, also known as a Skype chat. I remember waking up one night to the sound of a hyena. So yeah, my first question is for Madison. So Madison, you are, if you connect the dots, you get a Cancer. And a Cancer is a symbolism of protection due to its hard exterior's shell, and means you do whatever it takes to secure your place in your chosen path. Tell me, how do you relate to Eugene Krabs, which is what Cancer is an animal of?
Yeah, so I think I was hoping that someone would ask some sort of zodiac related question for, tonight, because I think that I managed to sorry, my parents are getting home. I kind of managed to follow a lot of my like assumed zodiac traits, along with kind of defying a lot of them. I think in my past orgs and stuff, I've managed to play very emotion driven games, and I've like popped off really easily and a lot of things like that, which is notorious for Cancers. But I think I managed to kind of stray away from that in this game, while still remaining viciously loyal to the people that I was loyal to, and also like obviously protect the people that I cared about when it was also important for me. But so I think based on the description I think based on the description that you gave, there's a pizza in the floor, that I was able to protect the people that I cared about while also making sure that I was doing what was best for me and my path. So I hope that answers your question. I was obviously distracted by pizza on the floor.
Okay, so now we're gonna move on to Maynard. So Maynard, you're in Aries, and when you connect the dots, you get what this seems to be a ram. And according to Google.com, a ram symbolizes leadership and authority. This sign stands for renewal, ardor, masculine, vigor, intense force, and other words I don't know the definition of, but you read a lot, so I'm pretty sure you know the definition. So tell me, Maynard, how are you a ram this game?
So Ram, I won 3 challenges. And the one that I'm most proud of is the foot one, the standing one. Because we stood for 3 hours, plus the other ones were 5. So I had the determination to last as long as I wanted to. I was willing to go all night so I could win this challenge, because I really wanted to make it to the final three, show that it was my first endurance comp ever in an org. So I wanted to prove myself that I could do it and win one. And I just felt like proud. Just, yeah.
Okay, so now we're gonna go on to Matt. Oh, I forgot, like, my webcam was off, but I like had printed out little like things. I didn't know my webcam was off, but okay. So now we're gonna move on to Matt, who is an Aquarius. So that quote I said earlier about the ruffle feathers, your animal is a peacock. So according to Google, a peacock has integrity, beauty, nobility, guidance, protection, watchfulness, holiness, and a big feathery tail. So tell me, Matt, how do you fit the description of a peacock? Also, do you believe you ruffle feathers or rustle feathers this game?
I think I hope I didn't ruffle too many feathers. I think I tried to uphold a lot of integrity in the way that I went about having disagreements with people. Which, in Survivor, it's very easy to suddenly just be like, oh, this person doesn't agree with me. I'm very mad at them. I'm going to vote them out. So I think a big example of this was Timmy and I had a big disagreement at the time that Owen was voted out, because I was trying to say that it was the time to vote Ian out. But instead of trying to be argumentative about it, I was very pleased that the two of us, like, he was like, I'm so sorry. I know you must be pissed. And I was like, honestly, like, this is a game. We're working together. I just want to hear what you have to say. I made my case. He made his case. And ultimately, he was sort of unflinching when it came to voting Owen. And I was like, okay, I absolutely respect that. I'm not going to try to like go around your back right now. You have proven to me that you can be trustworthy. So I respect that decision. And like an Aquarius, I went with the flow, and I sort of just was able to recalibrate myself to get Owen out and then get Ian out the next vote. And I think if I had tried to do something where I tried to like turn on Timmy, it would have been a mistake. So.
Okay, so just like to finish off saying congratulations to you three. You managed to outwit, outlast, outplay, outsmart, and enjoy your day 47 meal at the Outback Steakhouse. I've been Cullen, and I bid you all farewell. Bye, Jeff.
Bye, Colin.
Wow. Thank you, Colin. So next up we have where's the sheet? We have
me as Owen. So Owen was very kind. He left us some audio. So I will be playing his audio and kind of keeping track of time. And I'll be cutting you off as he would probably cut you off. So here we go.
Okay, hi guys. I'm like outside of a cabin and I'm working on it. I have a little bit of free time, so I'm gonna try to be as clear as possible, but I'm also not trying to scream because I don't want to run out of my feet. Out of the three of you, you were three people that I enjoyed talking to a lot, even if, I don't know, maybe I'd make it to the final three. I just have a few questions. I'm only really probably going to be able to listen to this section of the final before I make my mind, because I don't have a lot of time. So if there's things you've said in other parts, feel free to repeat them here for me. Here we go. I don't know how much time I have. I'm really just that. I loved the Paradise Alliance. I really love working with you there. At times, I felt like you and I didn't always communicate, and that we were more both just communicating through the I think specifically like you telling her about the idol and not me, and like obviously she told me about it. So I don't know. There were just a few things that I felt like we disconnected socially or strategically, and I just want to know a little bit more about your social game and how you were socially better than the other two sitting there. Madison, loved you. Chloe.
Okay, Matt, go ahead and answer his question.
So the question, I believe, was was my social game and how my social game was stronger.
Yeah.
I think my social game was absolutely the strongest that I've played and that anyone here has played. Because I was just like always constantly communicating with people. I think it's very easy to see through people when the first message that you get from them is like, "Hey, what are you thinking for the vote?" And you're like, "Okay, now it's very interesting that you're finally talking to me." But I was constantly just on, like, asking people how their day was, just having these individual conversations, because A, I did care, and B, as a happy byproduct, I knew that it would work out. I was close with the people who, even if they were targeting me, I was close. Ian and I had a very honest conversation, and I think honesty and like being earnest was very important for me. Just like very honest about like why were we targeting each other in the first place at the tribal that we both played idols, and I think that's like a very strong thing of character for me and for him also. But I think the strongest example of my social game came with the friendship that I made with Madison and Minor. I was planning on voting Renee the whole day, and I talked to them a lot, and they were really hoping I was going to vote Chloe, and I was teetering, and I was like, okay, I could see myself voting Chloe, but ultimately, I was with Corey and Devin at that point, so I knew I was voting Renee the whole time. And I had really started to like them though, so I made sure afterwards I told a bit of a white lie, which was that I switched my vote at the last minute. I don't know if that was actually believable or not, but I'm seeing a head shake. But it still was the beginning of a relationship for me and them. So I think that was really cool that I could go from suddenly being against them to suddenly being with them. And that was just by being friendly and being amicable.
Okay, thank you, Matt. We will continue. He will be addressing Madison.
Finally got to play together. We were not my partner, but we didn't always
Can't hear him at all.
driving force behind anything that was happening.
Okay. You guys played together for a couple of rounds, but he didn't see you as the driving force behind everything.
So I'd like to know which things you were in control of in this game. What areas did you have more control over?
He wants to know what areas in which you were in control in this game. Yeah.
Okay. I could kind of hear the end of that. Sorry. But okay, so I know you said you can't listen to all of it, so I'm going to be reiterating some things that I've already said. But I really appreciate your question. I'm so glad that we finally got to work together in a game. Thankfully, Emily was not here to ruin it. But I think a lot of me running this game really came into play towards the end. I know some people kind of, specifically Devin, I know said, oh, it's just going to be Matt running another round. But I think I had a lot to do with a lot of things toward the end game. And obviously my alliances and my connections had a lot to do with that. I convinced other people who may have convinced other people, but I do think that I was a driving force, especially in the end. But when I completely see how when you were still in the game, you didn't see that. I was kind of trying to let you and Kate and Corey specifically take that forefront of the driving force, despite the fact I was in the know of every vote. I was in the know of what was happening at all times. And I credit that to my social game. But in terms of the things that I drove that did happen closer towards the end, specifically with knowing that you were leaving and all of that kind of transpired after that, knowing that we needed to flip the vote onto Ian. I had a lot to do with that vote as well. And especially, I know Minor kind of said that he was planning to vote Chips all along, but I think making Chips seem like a bigger threat was also, regardless, and Minor, you may disagree, but I think kind of my push to make Chips seem like a bigger threat throughout the entirety of the game, specifically that end game, I knew that I did not want Chips going from that first boot to final tribal council. None of us would have a shot at that point. I knew who I wanted to be in the final three with. They're both sitting here with me. And I don't think that could have happened had I not been, at least not necessarily running every vote, but being a major participating player in every vote. So that Ian flip, that Chips flip, and then again with kind of I don't know how much convincing it took, but Minor at least made it seem like I was doing at least a little bit of convincing to get him to send Devin and Matt to fire making there at the end as well. So I think, while I do think I played a major part of a lot of votes pre-merge as well in that war zone, I think the more relevant stuff comes in here in the end game. So that's kind of what I referenced. But again, you can look at my voting history and look at the kind of communication that we had during the game and see that I was not just floating. I hope that's evident to you now, and I hope my kind of elaboration has helped you see that a little bit further. But I love you.
Okay. Thank you, Madison. This is to Minor.
Anyways, yeah, Madison, I love you. Sometimes. Minor. Well, baby Minor. You were someone who I didn't talk to before starting this game, who I probably ended up liking the most. Appreciate your right passage. I hope you after this. In my point of view, you're a frustrating person to play with because you never really brought up anything to the table. When we went alive, I think you're only one. Like, when we talked that night, chat, you hardly ever said anything. Other people, I would have to throw ideas and ideas out there, and other people would give input or agree, and I never felt like you really gave your opinion. I was always in PMs asking you, hey, are you okay with this? I never knew where your head was at in the game, even though we were supposed to be working together and we talked a lot, which was hard for me to get to know you on that level and get to know your game, especially because the way I perceive it, you and Timmy work together closely a lot of the time, and he was always upfront with me, telling me things. Yeah, I never got that side of you, and from my viewpoint, it seems like you were just doing what he said because you never showed me that you were a strategic player. So I guess this is similar to Madison's question, but more broad. I just want to know about the decisions that you made. Like, how were you a strategic player in this game at all? Define that strategy for me, because clearly you had the social and the physical going for you, and I just really need that last part.
Okay, so I will repeat everything Owen said since you guys are having some trouble hearing. So what Owen said is that you're frustrated and play with Minor. You never really gave your opinion. He never knew what was going on with you, even though you guys were supposed to be allies. He knows that you and Timmy worked very closely together. So what it seems like to him is that you were always doing what Timmy said. He said that you had a very strong social and physical game, but he needs to know more about your strategic game.
Okay. Hold on. Okay. So for one, I feel that deciding to the deciding to do Owen the first time when they both played idols, I felt that he was a big threat, so I just felt like pushing for him to go with Timmy and deciding like when was the right time to flip. I felt like it was the right time when there were still 4 numbers over there, so flipping it to the 6, I think it was 6-4, that one, and then deciding to flip back towards the EM vote. So voting 2 people from the alliance with Kate and Owen because they were the strongest ones and they had a close connection with Matt. So me deciding to do Owen, split up Kate and Matt because I felt they didn't have any bond. So because I know me and Matt talked, so I was hoping that taking out Owen would separate them two and have Matt closer with me. But ended up Kate leaving, but towards the next vote, Matt was willing to vote out Owen. So getting them to vote Owen was also a part of it, because we were sticking with Owen the vote after Kate, so I felt pushing towards the end. Well, I'm sorry. And then
Minor, I'm going to stop you there because we're running out of some time. So the last thing that Owen had to say is he wanted to let Madison know that he appreciated the jury management. She was the only one in his eyes that let him know that he was leaving. He assumes that she is the only one who voted with him on that vote. But if you guys have anything to say about that, you can go ahead.
I've already said that's correct.
Okay, so let's thank Owen for his questions. The next person who will be represented by Monty is Thomas.
Hello, everyone. I'm Thomas. Let me get my own timer started. Let me go. Okay. Also got to find his host chat. I'm a mess. Okay. So we've got a couple questions. I think they're for each person. So we're just gonna ask them and then just go down the line. Madison, Matt, Minor, answering them. So the first question is, do you think the twists of our signs did have an impact on this game?
Me first? Okay. Can you repeat the question? How did the twist of our signs?
Yeah. Do you think they had an impact?
I think they did in a way that we kind of all went into the game with a general perception of each other based on our signs. It automatically kind of set a precedent, especially with the way that the host decided to plan the twists, with us just having to vote out sign partners immediately right off the get-go. It set up a precedent of judging people based on their signs kind of right off the bat. But then I think the Warzone twist kind of like brought that, like kind of took that away, and the fact that we were having to communicate with new people and make new connections every single round. But I do think that it kind of it set a precedent of how we perceived each other right off the bat. But other than that, I don't think it played a big part in the game. Definitely post merge and definitely like towards the end. Other than the fact that we all had partners and there was some like sketchy loyalty kind of, we got to get the signed partners out. I'll end it there.
All right, Matt.
I think the sign partner twist was really interesting. Instead of putting us in a place where we were like on a one tribe to start and you make an alliance of like 6 out of 10, sort of stick with that. And then if you don't stick with that, you're kind of seen as a flipper. I think it was actually really beneficial to have one partner, and then I never actually went to Warzone as a partnership. So it encouraged me to like never kind of settle for one alliance or one relationship, when I knew that every Warzone I could be at a Warzone with 9 different people than I was at the last one. I don't know if that works mathematically, but metaphorically it sounds cool. So I think the partner twist was good. I did also kind of lead a charge against Adrian when I knew that sign partners were being targeted. So sorry, Adrian. But ultimately, it sort of like set the standard for the way that the season was going to go, and I appreciated that.
And Minor.
Okay. So I feel like they had some sort of impact in the beginning because you had during the war zones, because you had someone you could trust because you were both in the partnership, in the duos. So you had someone already to count on, and just trying to work through that first few, because it was the signs where you were chosen if you were in Warzone or not. But after that, it didn't really affect it. I think it was just more like, oh, if you still have the partner, we should split them up because they have some like loyalty since the beginning. Yeah.
All right. I'm going to go 2 and 3. So number 2, what was your highest high? And number 3, what was your lowest low?
I have so many highs this game. I think My highest high was when I got to about finals, I would say definitely final 5, maybe even final 6, 7. And I knew that I had a solid path to the end in so many different ways. I knew that I had a connection with Devin. I knew that I had a connection with Matt. Minor and I got closer the more votes we got through, and I don't think Minor and I would have necessarily been as close as we are now had the votes not gone the way that they did. But I knew that there was a potential for connection there, and just the general social connections that we've made between being in 2 games together at once. But I think that getting to that kind of like final 765-ish area and knowing that I had a solid path to the end is like probably my highest high. Lowest low was losing several of my allies, pretty much one right after the other. And while I knew it was happening and I was as okay with it as I could be, and I knew it needed to happen, losing Corey, Kate, and Owen that close together was rough. So I don't think, like, obviously that's several moments, but those kind of together really made me have to like change my mindset of the game and play a little bit harder. So I would say that's my lowest low, but even still, I wouldn't be where I am had everything not happened the way it did.
Matt?
So my highest high besides the tiebreaker and the idol were like both really big moments for me. But my highest high in the game was the 1-2 punch of getting Ian out and then Cullen, because I knew like sort of if I could put the groundwork that I had laid out eventually helped me with the Ian vote, because it was literally going to either be Ian or me, to the point where it was deadlocked as a tie. So it felt really good when I had the security of knowing that the alliances and the friendships I had made would come through there. And then suddenly I realized that we could have this like really great opportunity that if I worked with Timmy, Minor, and Madison, that the 4 of us could control the votes at 7. And then getting Cullen out was what I wanted. Madison and I were sort of the swing votes there, and she really wanted to do chips, and I was like I'm down with chips, like I'll work with Madison. But I realized sort of as the time came that chips was someone I could work with more so than Cullen. So when I got rid of Cullen, who was a huge threat for immunity, I was left with people who also gave me a really good path that I can move forward with chips, I can move forward with Madison, and I can move forward with Minor. And I even was like close enough with Devin, even though we were at odds, that we could respect each other's games.
And Minor?
So my high was winning the endurance comp. Taking 3 hours on one foot and then having it the whole next like 2 days, having it sore and hurting while I walked. I felt that it was worth it because I showed that I was able to like keep going and show that I was dedicated and try to win and not just like have an easy way to the final 3. And then my low was seeing Timmy go. We have a special bond from like he almost a year ago. He was in my first org that I ever played, and ever since then we just grew. We've been growing as friends. So it's just seeing him go, leaving at 6, was just a low for me.
I forgot to say low.
Oh, go for it.
So my low was the also the elimination of Kate. I just like I was at this wedding, and I was just like trying to enjoy myself, and I just had this like weird gut feeling that like something was wrong, and sure enough, it was. And then I had been like realizing that Owen was a big threat, and then I realized it was gonna have to be Kate. So that was a very low feeling because I realized that my allies had a capacity to flip and lie to me. And I realized that Kate, who was someone I like really trusted 100%, was out of the game. But it also gave me the opportunity to move forward, sort of untethered by that bond. So that was, there was a balance there.
All right, one last question. Oh, wait, where'd it go? One last question. If you could change one thing about your game, what would it be?
I promise I'm going. I'm trying to think of my answer. I think if I could change one part of my game, it would be I'm honestly really happy with it. I would change like maybe the amount of like just kind of small talk and stuff that I had with people pre-merge. I feel like I did really well with that like post-merge, and obviously that matters less in terms of winning and stuff, but just making more genuine connections with people early on in the game, or not letting my phone die the night of the Cullen vote. That would have, so I could have actually like flipped my vote. Again, I knew it was happening, but I couldn't know in the moment. But obviously there wasn't a lot I could do about that. It was my graduation day. But if I could change one thing about my game, it would have been not having a dead phone that night. Sure, that's my answer.
If I could change one thing about my game, it would have just been probably being more aware of the information that was being that I was like sharing. Just because I sort of knew like as soon as something was out there, it was going to get all the way around. So, like ultimately, obviously, it worked out for me. But there was a couple of times where I was like, as soon as someone knew this, like 5 minutes later, I'd get a message from someone else who was like, "Hey, did you hear about this?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, I did," because I was the one who said it. So just loose lips, tighten mine up, I guess.
For one thing, I would change. I think showing my strategic like process, like not showing it too much, but showing it like there's a hint through people, like actually like not being too vague about a vote or like a move, like showing like some solid thought process, and not just just showing more of that, but not like too much where I was like a threat or too much of a threat to take out.
All right, since the next juror is not ready and here, we can ask the fifth and final question. Lucky you guys. Where did that chat go? So the final question, oh my god. The final question is, what was your biggest flaw?
I would say that my biggest flaw was that I think some of my moves were more under the radar than I may like them to be now. I think they needed to be at the time in the game for me to get to where I am currently, but I know that it's a harder pitch now to show you the moves that I was making and the impact that I really, really did have on this game and the people in it. So I think that was my biggest flaw, but I also don't know that I would change it.
My biggest flaw in the game was probably that I wasn't always very good at convincing people that I wasn't, when I was trying to convince people that I was like sort of not knowing what was going on. I wasn't always very convincing in doing that. So if I had been just a little more sneaky, I guess. But here I am. So, oops.
Yeah, I feel just keeping everything like under the radar too, like my moves or like what like my strategic like decisions were, keeping that like under is something maybe shown in more during the game, but not too much, because I feel like it is harder to tell people like, oh, I did this, but people are like, well, we didn't see that throughout the game when we were in it.
All right, thank you guys. We'll wait for our next juror now. Okay. So the juror who was supposed to come, we have not heard from, so I am making the executive decision to speak for one of our jurors who will not be here tonight. Hello, I'm Chips. All right. So, hey guys, first of all, I want to say the cliche of congratulations on getting to the final tribal council, and wanted to thank the hosts for their twists that allowed me a chance to meet you. You all did exactly the goal of this game, and I am incredibly happy that I got to know each of you while playing. And Madison, if we are not cast in the next Dynamic Duo season, we were robbed. Anyway, I am going to break my speech into 3 questions, statements, or a combination, and will give each of you 3 an opportunity to speak them. I want to include a disclaimer that someone else may have already asked similar questions, or they may have been addressing your intros. Sorry, I'm not saying those as I write this. Minor. First up, I want to ask you to remember to show me those tie-dye cookies. I found a recipe for them that said fun for kids, so I assume they're pretty easy to do, and you just use a sugar cookie recipe. Anyway, I want to be transparent with you now that you are in the final tribal council. In this game, I initially viewed you as a potential ally since Renee recommended working with you. I knew that since she and I had bonded so closely that you would be a positive recommendation. My problem was that once I did get to speaking to you, it became more and more apparent to me that you weren't really a player, and I started to regard you as Timmy's second vote. You even went so far as to say in his rites of passage that you didn't talk to anyone the night he was voted out because you were heartbroken. So my question, I guess, is for you to tell me times at the merge where you operated it individually. This excludes the final 5 and the duos round for obvious reasons. Did you know he was getting voted out? Did you let it happen? Or did you just latch onto someone you knew from before the game started and try to ride them to the end?
Okay, so he asked for when I just did myself, right?
Yes, that's not the final 5 or not the duos round.
Okay. Well, there was a alliance. I had connections with Corey and Ian, so we bonded during when we were safe from the war zone one time. So during the merge, I had them as allies. So it was just gonna be like us 3, but so I knew like they wouldn't vote for me. So I at least I knew like where they were voting and what they were thinking of doing, while still working with the 5-person alliance that I felt good with. But if I needed to jump ship, I could have gone with them. And it did help me when trying to flip on Owen, Kate, and Matt, when it was apparent that them 3 would stick together from that 5. Because I was able to go with Ian since we did have that connection.
All right, thank you. Going forward, Madison. First of all, let me say that I adore you as a person. I know that our conversations were incredibly limited because you were busy having an end of the year parties and graduating, but the times that we did talk, you were hilarious, and I appreciate your charity in taking time out to speak to Cardboard. Also, thank you so much for sticking to your guns in the Timmy vote off because I had a huge feeling Matt was going to Blake. A huge part of your narrative in this game involved other players saying that you were a dangerous step because of your strong social game, because you were always pulling strings and that if people crossed you, they were cut from the game. I'm assuming this happened in the pre-merge, so if you could tell me which players crossed you as part of your answer, I would love that enlightenment. My issue with your game was that you were never going to be a target at the merge, and it's not because you were good at avoiding the target, but because you were not winning an immunity challenge or the game since you were relatively invisible. In the last tribal council where Devin was eliminated and you said not to keep the goats around, I was wondering to myself if you've realized that you were self-referencing. I just want to know from your perspective what was going on in your head throughout the merge. Was life too busy and you just wanted to get as far as you could despite it? Were you the puppet master pulling match strings?
That is a wonderful question. So I will start by referencing sort of the beginning of your question as to what happened pre-merge with when people sort of crossed me. They were voted out. That's super aggressive, and usually I would like take full credit of that in games. I tried to avoid that kind of like, you come at the queen, you best not miss kind of attitude, but also, you know, here I am. So I do think Chloe, I know, mentioned my name several times. Chloe was voted out. Let's see. I'm going back through because I know I'm gonna forget. I was told, I don't know that this is true, but I was told that Nehemiah was talking about what a large target I was. Nehemiah was also very quickly voted out of the game. I do think I had a very large part in that, considering I flipped most of his alliance onto him at that point. I don't know that this is true, but as I said sort of in my opening statement, I knew that people were going to start coming for duos, and I knew that me and Jacob were a really big target as sign partners, and I, again, made it very clear that I was perfectly fine voting him out, and actually made sure that he was the one that went home instead of me. I'm trying to skim through, but I also want to reference the rest of your question as well without taking up too much time. So that's some examples of that. But also, I definitely don't think that I was a goat at the end, like throughout post-merge of this game. I think you can call me a lot of things, but a goat is not one of them. I won't say that I was like the puppet master pulling all of Matt's strings, but I don't think there was a move that Matt made that I didn't know about. So if you think that he truly was a puppet master, then I might kind of reconsider that. I am very sorry that you and I didn't get to make a lot more like strategic connections. I felt like we made a decent social one, but the strategic connections weren't necessarily there. I also don't believe that people would have been saying that I was this massive target and that if you come for me, then you're going to get voted out and stuff if I was a goat by the end of the game. I do know that I managed to play a somewhat under the radar game, but I also was making moves. People were aware of the people that I was voting. I wasn't necessarily being super sneaky, but I also wasn't making myself a target. I think I did a really good job of aligning with people that would always be a bigger target than me, while also still being able to make relatively big moves while keeping myself safe. And honestly, I think that's the biggest like aspect of Survivor, especially post-merge and especially that close to the end, and especially with this many big alliances as were formed in this game. So I'm taking up quite a bit of time, so I'll stop there. I really hope that answers your question, and I hope that you perceive my game a little bit differently now.
All right, thank you, Madison. I'll go on to the last part. Matt, I want to let you know that you are still invited to Calvin's birthday party, even if you voted me out. And I still expect you to help me in planning his second Pokemon-themed party. In this game, you were the person that I felt I grew the closest to, and I'm really glad that I got the chance to meet and play with you. At the moment, for that reason, your game is also the one that I am most aware of. For that reason, I want to ask you about something that I didn't get around to asking during the game. Why did you not let me know the truth about voting Cullen during that round? In support of full disclosure, my vote right now is yours to lose. So if you feel you have anything else to share with me to fully convince me, go for it.
Well, as I was saying before, the part of my game that frustrated me the most was how I felt like every time a little bit of information was out there, it would suddenly be everywhere. So unfortunately, at the expense of like not telling Chips about the Cullen vote, I sort of was just going to keep it tight. I knew I had the numbers, so that was sort of what I had to do. Was just not let the information just sort of like all over the place. Just keep a lid on it, I guess is the expression. Can I also address one thing actually?
Absolutely. He gave you that open end. Go ahead.
Cool. I just want to address what Madison said about knowing all my moves. I think that's pretty fair, but at the same time, I don't think that discredits anything that I did, just because someone else was aware of it, because clearly I still made it here. If like everyone knew kind of what I was doing, then maybe it was a mistake to have let me got to the final three then. So that's what I'm going to say about that.
We still have some extra time if anyone else wants to say anything.
Can I kind of re-speak to him, re-speaking to that? I definitely don't mean to discredit any move that you made, Matt. I just also, like, I think if Chips is coming at it from a point of, like, if you were running my game, I also don't want it to come across that way, because I definitely don't think that was the case. And if you disagree, that's fine. But I don't think you were. I don't think any of us at any point were fully running the other two out of those of us that are left here at Final Tribal Council. And I think none of us would be here if that were the case.
Okay. That was all that Chips had to say. Thank you, guys.
All right. We are going to be moving to another juror who is not yet here. So I am going to, for the time being, be Ian. So Ian has some statements. It looks like they're more statements than questions, so I'm just going to read them. If they're questions, you can answer them at the end. So he said, firstly, I would like to thank Montez, Alyssa, and I guess Johnny. Thank you for all the work you put into this game. Additionally, I would like to say congratulations to Minor, Matt, and Madison. Good job, you made it to the end. For the two of you not receiving my vote, that is the only nice thing I'll say tonight. I refuse to pretend that all three of you have a chance to win my vote. You don't. I'm not going to watch a 2-hour tribal to listen to you try and say things I want to hear. I'm too goddamn busy for that shit. I do, however, want to make it clear as to why I am voting for you and why I'm not voting for the other two. The first person I am not voting for is Madison. This should be obvious to you. You didn't play this game. You actively ignored my PMs. The only time you reached out to me was Mars Week to find out if I could be voted off or not. To sum it up in a phrase, I've got nothing for you. Head back to camp. The second person I'm not voting for is Minor. It took me a minute to put my finger on what it was about your game that rubbed me the wrong way. Was it that you lied to me twice about not voting for me while I already had confirmation that you were both times? Nah, while cowardly, that's not a valid reason to dislike someone's game. I thought it was because you came off as wishy-washy and just aloof most of the time, but that wasn't it. That's why I wanted to use you. There was something deeper as to why your game just sat wrong with me. After mulling it over more, it clicked. You played a willfully blind game. I mapped out to you exactly how this game is going to be played after the Duos Week, and your response was, OMG, I hope that's not the case. Do you really think so? I straight up told you the dynamics of this tribe, and you played blind. I told you what would happen if Matt and Madison were left intact in this game, and you sat blindly as what I predicted came true around you. I don't blame Matt and Madison for what they did in this game. When you corner a wild animal, it has no choice but to lash out. I can, however, judge willful ignorance to the social politics of the game that were made clear to you not one, not two, but 3 occasions, and yet you just let the game happen around you. Not a damn thing was positive for you in this game. Not a damn thing that was positive for you in this game can be attached to your name. I went out in 8th place, but damn, did I get some sweet trophies on my way out. That leaves who I am voting for, Mateo. We butted heads constantly in this game. It was my firm belief that the reason for this was that we are 2 players cut from the same cloth, but on opposite sides of the game. Game respects game. You executed your lot in this game flawlessly. Someone I wanted to sit at Final 3 with came to you to get me out, and then you subsequently put my closest allies on the jurors bench next to me. That's fucking Survivor, baby girl. Every step I took, you were right there with me. When you pulled ahead, I pulled you back. When I snapped, you snapped back. I've never had a truly skilled survivor rival that alone made Kuwait worth it for me. I may have won some of the battles, but you won the war. Matt, seriously, well fucking done, my guy. When we tied again, I PM'd you to go win this thing. I meant it. I'd have a beer with anyone from this game, but you were on the short list of people I've met in orgs that I think I'd honestly get along with IRL. Kill it with the rest of the jury, my dude. You already have me sitting in your corner. Turtwig beat Charmander this time around. All right, that is it from Ian. We will be reaching out to the other jurors and seeing who we can get on first, because we love scheduling.
Can I just say I love a good cracked juror, and Ian just killed that.
How are you guys doing? I'm okay. We have some time. Much love from the host.
much love for the hosts.
Hello. I can't hear you.
Timmy?
Am I allowed to start talking now?
Yes.
Okay,
the
no
floor
one
is
actually,
yours.
okay, no one actually said anything when I joined, so I'm just like, oh, okay. Hi, people. My camera's not on because I'm ugly. Just putting that out there. I kind of wrote down things to say, but also don't really know what to say because this tribal council's been all over everywhere. So some of my questions have been already answered. The first person I will address though is Madison, and it kind of does. No, you don't want to do the peace signs. It does it does kind of bounce off of what Ian was saying. I did not see you as a player. I saw you as present in the game, but to be a player, and because perception is reality, point blank, that's what it is. And from what I saw from you was a more so kind of a side piece to the trio that was Owen, Kate, Matt. Once Owen and Kate bounced off, you're kind of just seeing Matt. And that's where I see you following. So that's pretty much the stat on that. Now time to turn to you, Matt. So obviously, like being in the game as long as I was able to see you as a player and make moves throughout because there were times where you were in kind of a shithole in the game, and then times where you rose to the top of a mountain. But so how did you change your strategy throughout the game? Like how did your game evolve as time went on?
So my game definitely evolved from me sort of being like, as long as it isn't me, as long as it is me, like I love Sandra so much throughout the war zone, to getting to the point where I was like, when I was realizing what was going on with the Owen and Kate vote, I was actually like plotting like get Owen out in like 1 to 2 tribal councils, but suddenly the decision was kind of made for me. So I realized that's why as soon as there was the opportunity for a revote, I went to Minor and I was like, tell me who I'm revoting. Like, I'm totally with you. So the game really evolved for me because I felt like even though I suddenly lost like this really, really strong connection that maybe I would have been kind of content on like going with, it like really lit a fire under me because I realized like I should, I had let like a connection with Madison Minor kind of go away, and I was sort of letting things just kind of happen and making sure I was a part of them, but not making sure that I was the controlling force. So my game definitely evolved from that point on because I was like, I'm tired of like going with the flow unless the flow is something that I am like subtly influencing. So that's sort of how my game evolved because I was like, I need to be much more active in making these decisions.
Thank you. Okay, so now moving on to Minor. Thank you for always being there for me in this game. You were the one person I knew I could trust throughout anything, whether it was I was stressed in this game, I struggled, but a lot of people obviously, and you've heard at times, saying you were basically my second vote. Personally, I don't even see it like that because you were there where my game lacked, which was socially. If I needed something and I couldn't get a hold of someone, you had already had the answer. You had already talked to them. I was able to get a lot from you, which is why I see your game as such, like I hold your game high because I did see you do well. And I know someone else already asked this, but I kind of want you to go more in depth on it. But like, where was your game independent? Where did you see yourself making, and not even like moves, but just like, because not everything has to be a big flashy move, but like, where did you see your game being independent in just any stage of it at all, specifically after merge started, because that's when we were able to like work together.
I think my game was mostly independent when it came to making relationships, making bonds with people. Um, like I knew where I know like Ian, Corey, um, Devin, they were their own like trio. I knew Matt, Kate, and Owen were theirs. I know Madison was like one of the people in the middle, but was sided more with Kate because I know they had an alliance with Corey. It was like them three. And yeah, so I tried to make connections with everyone, and which helped me throughout the game because they came to me and they're like, "Oh, this is what I'm thinking." I know my game lagged when talking strategically with people, but if I knew, because I didn't want like anything like what Matt said, like anything leaking. So that's why I was always vague, and that's why I guess I seem wishy-washy. Um, but I did talk strategic. If I knew, like, if I can talk to you and it wouldn't go anywhere else, I would do it. Um, I know, yeah. So like, I knew where people were gonna vote, except for the final six. But I knew like which way everything was gonna go through the merge. Yeah.
Sorry, I couldn't find the unmute button on my microphone. Thank you for the answers. I really appreciate it.
Timmy, can I respond to what you said? I don't expect to necessarily be able to change your mind or anything. And I know you didn't ask me the question, but can I kind of respond to your statement?
No.
No? Okay.
I do appreciate you want to. I do respect that. Personally, I just don't see the point. If you want to do it during your closing statement, feel free, but that's your time. On that note, also, I love all three of you outside this game. Beyond that, sorry if some of what I said today was harsh at any point. I do love and respect all of you. So may the best person win. And thank you. Thank you, hosts. Bye.
Thank you, Timmy. We are going to try and get in touch with our next juror.
Who else loves scheduling issues? Me.
Hello. Okay, so I am going to be stepping in for Devin. That's who I am now. Devin had very simple questions for you guys. So all of his questions are individual. So I will start with Minor. Minor, why do you feel that I, Devin, played a better game than Matt?
Yeah, so I felt you had a good solid case. You had all the negative stuff in the touchy subjects, but you were able to overcome that and make it to the final four. You never gave up. You always tried making them like getting the votes line up perfectly, or trying to get the majority. Um, the final four immunity, it was a very strong, and you were a beast. And it was an honor to compete with you in that one and lasting as long as it did. Um, yeah, and then your jury relationships with the jury, I feel like you had like more good terms with everyone than Matt.
Okay, thank you, Minor. So Devin's next question is addressed to Matt. Matt, what vote was the most pivotal for you after Owen left?
I mentioned this before, but it was the Cullen vote that was the most pivotal. After Owen left, Cullen to me was the biggest physical threat, and I realized getting rid of him would put me in a position where I would have the numbers no matter what. And I also think out of everyone, he was just the least likely to work with me. So I just knew that was the first time I was like suddenly in a position where I saw the exact path that could get me to the finals. So it was very pivotal for me, and it felt good that I was the one making the decision at the end. I felt like if it was an episode of Survivor, and like he had gotten voted out, the camera would cut to me, and that was like a cool feeling I felt.
Okay, thank you. So Madison, what move do you claim as your own?
I feel like I've addressed this a few times, but I definitely claim there's several. I definitely claim a really big part of that Ian vote. I claim almost entirely the Chips vote, and I claim a really big part of the Timmy vote as well. Which now, after having Timmy come in and say I wasn't like a player in the game and stuff, which I fully respect his opinion, but also like to have him come in and play to say that, and then, but I definitely take a really big part of the fact that he was voted out when he was, as well. So I would say that those are my biggest moves relevant to the end game. I think I played a big part in like the Nehemiah vote and some other votes pre-merge during the Warzone and stuff as well. But those are the ones that I think are most relevant now.
Okay, thank you. Do you guys have anything else that you have to say? We have some time left, and his questions are answered. All right, so we will move on and try to get our next juror.
All right, I will be filling in for Corey. Just like Owen, he has some videos that he has recorded. So let's get to those. Except he also has videos, so you can actually see his face too and pretend it's actually Corey instead of just listening to me. If it'll ever load.
All right, hello. Congratulations to the final three, Madison, Maynard, and Matt. You guys played games like what got you here, and so that is very impressive. My first question's for Matt. I have two questions for you, actually. There's 10 minutes that I have to ask you guys questions, so I'll basically give you guys 2 to 3 minutes each to answer them because I want everyone to be able to answer theirs. So, Matt, my first question for you is there were many twists in Kuwait. Many things happened that were unpredictable. How did they help or disadvantage you in this game? Overall, was it more of a benefit or was it more of a danger to your game? And my second question, after you've answered that one.
All right.
Okay, I'll answer the first one. I think the twists. I would say the twists were something that I did have to overcome, but I think my game was stronger for it. I think the thing about my social game that I was really proud of was knowing that the week that it was the partners week, considering we were going to be voting out Ian and Devin, and then they saved themselves with an idol, and then we had to vote out you and Colin. I knew that 3 people were going to come back to the tribe having received votes from me, which was like, I felt like a lot of damage control. So I was very proud of myself for being able to sort of like smooth that out and like not suddenly be the next to go after that. So I would say that the twists were made my game stronger because they made me like try harder.
Is who were your biggest threats in the game from beginning to end? Like, give me your biggest threats in the stages of the game.
So my biggest threat was Ian in the beginning. He was the first person that I really went to a war zone with who I saw that he had this like very strong aggressive gameplay where he's like, we're taking out Jacob or Madison, we're taking out duos, and I was like, whoa, I'm a duo. So it was something that I knew I had to get rid of Adrian in order to like give myself the opportunity to be in the game long enough that I could eventually get out Ian. And then Timmy, I found, was a huge threat. I just thought the way that he was playing the game was like really, really good. Just being in the middle, being on the right side of the votes. And I was like, I knew that getting him out would open up a path for me at Final 5, and also would just take out someone who could maybe even sweep immunity for the rest of the game.
All right, this one is for Madison. Madison, I want to thank you, first of all, for being loyal to me. I feel like not everyone was loyal to me who I needed, and to see loyalty make it to the final 3 is beautiful. Other than that, I know that you are a very social player. We were in 2 alliances together, and we were well connected. But that's when I left, a little while ago. So I want to understand how come so much of the jury think of you as a passive player who was not involved in the game. I want to give you a chance to defend yourself because that's what I experienced when I was on the island. But it feels like that's some of the other jury's experience with you. So I just want to give you a chance to defend yourself on how you made it to the end, because I predicted that you would be in the Final Tribal Council. And you did. So I think you obviously did something right. I wanted you to explain how come it looked so passive from other people's perspectives.
Yeah, Corey, I love you so much. Like, I could go on and on about like how much I love you as a person and as a player. But to answer your question, I really appreciate that one specifically. I think a lot of people see my game as passive because I was going. I don't want to say I was going for an under the radar game because I don't think my game was under the radar. I think it was clear in the connections that I made. Obviously, we were in those two alliances, and some people have said that I was piggybacking off of Owen, Kate, and Matt, but the only person that's still here is Matt out of those. Owen and Kate left. I knew they were leaving. I may not have voted for them, mostly out of loyalty, but I also knew that they needed to leave, and if I had to have voted them out, I might have later on in the game. That being said, I think that my game was perceived as passive because that's how it needed to be. I needed to have people that were bigger targets than me. I made it through, like, I think, like, through touchy subjects, I didn't get a single negative touchy subject, which has never happened for me in a game before. I wasn't perceived as a big threat, and some may still think that I'm not, or I never was, but I would definitely disagree. I think the vote went the way I wanted it to go pretty much all of the time, and it might not have happened exactly when I would have wanted it, specifically with those Kate and Owen, and your vote, obviously. I would have loved for you to be in the game a little bit longer, but here I sit now with the people that I intended to make it to the end with. You were talking about the social connections with the alliances towards the beginning of Merge. The M&M Alliance sits here with me right now. And I think that's one of the biggest examples of my social connections and the way that I wanted it to go. And it might bite me in the butt, and I might not win because of the people that I'm sitting here next to, but I don't think it should, and that's not how I played my game. So I hope that answers the question.
Maynard, this one is for you. I want to understand how you got to the end. So my question for you is pretty simple. I want you to tell me why your game is better than both Matt and Madison's game, and why I should give you my vote over them too. Thank you.
Which I think mine's game is better because of my connections, and I just feel that it always comes down with the connections. I was able to win the 3 immunities, so like those were like pivotal, like the final 4 one, the final 6, and I think it was like the final 9 or something. But yeah, like my connections, I was always in the middle, and I knew where people were going. Like Madison and Matt, they were like, oh yeah, they know like they wanted to get rid of Owen, but they didn't see that vote going, I believe. Because we decided to do it then, because we were able to pull in Devin, Ian, Chips, and Devin, Colin. The other side that we were blindsided. And then I was able to go through both sides without getting any like backlash because of my connections and just like my bonds with people. And even though like I lost some people that I trusted, I was still able to have some people to still work with me and still want to like not vote me out, and it helped because I got 0 votes throughout the whole game.
All right, we have our last juror right here. Hello,
Oh, I'm last. Oh, I showed up at the right time, huh?
All right, go for it.
Hi. I haven't gotten a chance to watch any of this, so I'm sure you guys are all doing great. I want to start with Matt. Hello. Wait, is this loading? Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, hello.
Oh, okay, cool. It like lagged out real fast. Okay. I did not prepare anything because I'm garbage like usual. Matt, I just want to tell you, like, it was like honestly such a pleasure like meeting you and all this. Like, I was really worried about coming back and playing Tumblr games again because I mean, like, I'm like 40 years old and like way older than like all the teenagers that play these games still. So it was really nice like getting to meet like an actual like genuine friend, and super happy for that. My question for you is, what is something that you're going to be taking away from this game? Like, whether that's like something for like a new game, like something that you learned, or just like something about yourself, or yeah, I don't know.
I think I'm going to take away, well, A, hopefully a lot of friends. I did, but B, like, I think I learned a lot about myself and a lot about just like the way to interact with people. I like, in my real life, I had, I went through a couple times where I was sort of doubting the kind of person I was. And I watched a lot of videos that were like how to be charismatic and how to like really like show and communicate with people. And I think I am just really proud of the way that I proved to myself that I could be genuine. I'm glad that no one saw like the conversations that I had with people as like being transparent or just being me trying to get just something out of them. And even though it's a game, I think it does kind of represent life. So in that sense, I'm going to take away the fact that I like can have a lot of trust in myself. I don't need to rely on other people to make my decisions. And like listening to people is just as important as trying to entertain them, which is something that I'm a comedian, so I'm used to just being on stage in front of people. But like listening is just as important. Thank you for that question.
Yeah, you answered it perfectly. Thank you.
Cool. And I'm sorry that I got your Switch code right before you got voted out. So I will play you on the Switch now that you can talk again.
Okay, sounds good. Okay. Then I'll go to minor, I think. So I was really close with Matt the whole time, and like Madison's like my little lady. I love her. So like I feel like I had like decent connections with them, but like you and I feel like we never like really talked a whole lot. Do you feel like you deserve my vote tonight without like us really having played the game together like a whole lot?
Yeah, I think from the connections through the whole merge, I think ours was like the weakest. We only talked through mainly just the Lions chat, and then I guess a few times in the private messages. But I hope it doesn't just come to like a personal connection for like the vote. I hope you like just look at each game because we all played a different game, and then whichever one you feel like is the best. And I respect your decision because it's your vote, and just yeah.
So is that a yes or a no to my question? Just like real fast.
Yeah.
It's okay if you don't have an answer. Like I'm not gonna grill you. Like don't worry. It's okay. No worries. Thank you. And then Madison, real fast before I go. I think you are just like the cutest little human being, and I adore you. I don't really have any questions, so I guess I'll just give you the same thing that I asked Matt. Like, what's something that you're taking away for like a new game or something? Like, what's something that you've learned?
I literally love you so much. Oh my god. Okay, so I think something that I'm really going to take away from this game, specifically, like just I'm going to explain how I think I'll take it away and use it in other games, but I think it's just something that I've taken away as a person, is that like loyalty and kindness and a genuine like connection without like the theatrics of trying to use a person to make big moves and stuff, because that's what I've based so many prior games on, is like my ability to manipulate the people around me and stuff. But I feel like this game, the people that I connected with, I feel like I really truly connected with, and that's something that I haven't been able to say in the past. And just the fact that loyalty and kindness and stuff is deserving of making it to the end. I don't know about a win, but it's deserving of making it to the end, and it's a valid strategy and it's a valid gameplay, but it's also just a valid like character trait as a human being, which is something that I think just in general needs to be valued more. Kindness and loyalty and friendship.
Absolutely. I love that. We should all be kind, like the Nina West thing.
Love each other. Yes.
Okay, cool. I think you guys are all like super great. I love each and every one of you. Yeah, I'm super happy with this final 3. You guys are all so cute. Okay, I'm gonna go now because I have to go back to work, but good luck.
Bye, Kate. Thank you. Okay, so our last juror unfortunately could not be here and has some stuff going on. He wasn't able to get anything to us, but I wanted to give you guys as finalists the opportunity to address Trace, who was the first juror, meaning that he probably doesn't know a lot about your games going further into the merge. If there is anything that you think should be said to Trace, I want to give you guys the opportunity to do that now, and you can decide which order you would like to go in.
I have something to say, so if it's okay, I'll go first. Trace, I know, like, obviously, if you watch the rest of the Final Tribal Council, I hope you'll kind of see, like, all of our games and our pitches and stuff to you. But I just want to speak specifically to you, coming from that Queer Eye-ish alliance that we had that I still love so much, and I will use that picture till the day I die because I love it the most. I just want to kind of explain my thought process behind voting you specifically. It was a really hard one, but I also knew you were going to be a really big challenge threat. You were going to be a massive social threat. I know your strategic game can be killer. You scared me so much. And I love you so, so dearly as a person, but I knew when we had that opportunity to take you out then that I would be dumb to pass that up, and I hope you understand that. I think a lot of people felt that way. I think that was kind of Matt and I kind of had a very similar conversation about that around that time, but I hope you understand that, and I just wanted to speak to you specifically about why I voted you out then, because I think you were one of the people that I was the least upfront with, because I was worried that you'd be able to work some magic and pull it around. So I don't know that you even cared, but if you do, that's my explanation.
Yeah, I just want to say Trace and I played our very, very, very first season back in season 10 together. And I don't think we got along super well, but I just was so glad to see that we were just like came to this game and it was such a clean slate and just had like such genuine connection. And like I just really I was proud of myself for like not being like holding a grudge or anything. And like getting to know Trace, and we talked a lot about like a lot of real stuff, and that was very, very important to me. And I was very glad that we could work together and make an alliance. But as soon as we did, I was starting to realize that you like just knew exactly what was going on, and I was like, Trace is playing the game I want to be playing, so I felt like I had to sort of usurp Trace and kind of take the throne, take the Elder Wand, if you will. So that was like a big thing for me.
So we were working together pre-merge. We had like a working relationship, but throughout the whole time, to be honest, I was scared of you. Because I felt that you could have been a huge threat if you lasted longer or passed that vote. And deciding to vote for you that round or save you was like a key moment, because it showed that people were starting to try to be strategic and not just go with the flow. So voting you out did help with the connections that I created for the rest of the merge. But I feel like you're a really great guy, and it was nice meeting you.
Okay, so that was officially the last juror. So now we will go on to your final address to the jury, which I believe you guys are doing the original order. So go ahead. You each have 10 minutes.
Okay, I'm going to keep this significantly shorter than I kept my opening statement. I think I've made my pitch to each of you individually, but I really, really, like from the bottom of my heart, hope you can all see how I tried to utilize a social, strategic, and physical game to create what I would honestly consider one of the best games that I've ever played. I made moves with the Nehemiah vote, with the Stephen vote, with the Ian vote, the Timmy vote, the Chips vote, and sending the end to fire making, which I think are all really great examples of my strategic and social game. The alliances I made between Mighty Kids Meal, Queer Eye-ish, and M&M, which sits here with me, and the way that I used them to make the other votes go the way I wanted is another great example of my social game. The challenges that I did win and the competitions I competed in and the ways that I did showcase a physical game that I'm usually unable to achieve. I'm not good at competitions, and I've always had to make up for that with my social and strategic game. But this game specifically, I put my heart and soul into not only the competitions I needed to, but the social connections I was making and the overall strategy that both of those were playing into. I have put my absolute all into this game, and I really hope that that shows to all of you on the jury, because I tried my best to create a game that not only that I'm proud of, but that all of you can be proud to vote for. And just a big thank you again to the cast, to the jury, to my fellow players that sit here with me at Final Tribal Council, and to the host for creating such an incredible game. I can't wait to talk to all of you in reunion chat no matter what, and I love you all.
Again. So I just hope you could see read through the questions more clear of my game that I played. I know like it was like hid under the radar, like hidden, and wasn't seen like throughout. But hopefully, with my answers, you're able to see like I had more of strategic, not just social and physical. But yeah, it does come up to you guys what you guys feel. It's the best game. We all have different ones, so I hope you vote for me. But if nothing, it's just everything, just respect, and thanks for making the season fun. And thank you.
Yeah, so I just want to close up, just kind of echoing the same thing. I'm really proud of myself. I've never played a game like this before. I knew, like, during the Warzone phase, I was like, I'm in the mindset that I need to be in right now, and I'm in like a different state of mind than I've ever been playing Survivor, and I like felt like I was like, this could be it. Like, this could be the one, and I feel like, I know that's like cheesy, but I just knew that I was like doing something right. And I think it's, I really appreciate, I don't think anyone's had to question if I was a good strategic player, a good social player. And I even finally proved that I was a good physical player by winning the challenges that I needed to. So I was proud of myself for coming through and coming to the clutch. And yeah, the same thing. I think I represented Aquarius well. My whole final speech was built around Aquarius, but then Cullen gave me the opportunity to speak on that, which is fantastic. I'm very happy with the genuine relationships I made, and I'm very happy that I was able to play as an individual. I don't think there was ever a point where I let anyone else sort of dictate the terms of what I was doing, and I don't think anyone would even question that. So I think a lot of my game speaks for itself. I think, yeah, and I think I hope that the same thing. I would love to, continue relationships with the people I've met here. This has been really good for me right now, so I'm happy, and I hope I earned everyone's votes by proving that.
All right, I think that finishes out our final tribal council. Congratulations to you three for making it through all of that. That was a long time, almost 2 hours. So good job to all three of you. Jurors, you have 25 hours to submit your votes, meaning they will be due tomorrow at the normal time of 10 Eastern. So you guys can feel free to rewatch this, do whatever you want, submit in your host chat. Good luck to you three finalists, and I will see you in 25 hours with the winner results.
And I just wanted to say thank you to everyone for playing. This was the first game I ever helped to host, and it was just a truly magical experience. Yeah, thank you all so much.
Yes, thank you. It was very fun to host all of you, so sad to see it end, but still have 25 hours, so good job, good luck, and goodbye.